Chatting GPT. All night, we're losing control. No chatting GPT. Chatting GPT.
Welcome to Chatting GPT, the podcast where I get to speak to interesting humans who are actually implementing AI in the workplace. My name is Maryrose Lyons. I'm your host. I'm the founder of the AI Institute. And our guest today is Niklas Lindgren. He is the founder of Endra, which is an AI platform built specifically for mechanical, electrical, and plumbing engineers. If you are one of those people listening to the show, take note. It's not often that we invite vendors onto the show, but we really felt it was worthwhile to have Niklas on because he and his team are really on a mission to build technology that is going to help MEP engineering companies to redesign how they spend time on projects in ways that will have very lasting results. So Niklas, thank you very much for joining and welcome to Chatting GPT. It's a pretty well-funded startup, even though I say so myself. It's just secured another 50 million in Series A funding from Andreessen Horowitz. Congratulations, Niklas, on that. Andreessen Horowitz, they're really investing in this space. I was listening to Joe Schmidt, not the rugby Joe Schmidt, but Andreessen Horowitz Joe Schmidt on the Bricks and Bytes podcast a few weeks ago. And they were advancing their thesis about how every building was designed by software from the 1990s. What's your take on that? And what are you doing at Endra that fits right into that story?
First of all, a disclaimer, Joe is on our board, so I'll speak firsthand probably from what his thoughts are. He also got a lot of, reading that article, it was like, there actually was buildings designed before 97. So he got a lot of pushback on that. I don't think that was the sort of point. So my overall thought, working with Joe is that they have a thesis on sort of how it works today and where it will be in 5 years' time and 10 years' time and how the industry will shift. And a fund like Andreessen Horowitz has been incredible in the past to understand sort of what categories of software that will become big and meaningful to industries. And this is sort of one of the industries that they're incredibly excited about.
But why do you think this particular industry has been so slow to move? And, my question would be, how come Endra is the one that's going to shake it up and not the incumbents like Autodesk or Bentley or somebody else like that?
I think there is a structural way. First of all, it's complex. It's hard. You have basically 3 layers of complexity. So you have the drafting layer, which is basically Revit or AutoCAD, but mainly Revit. Then you have the engineering layer or the calculation layer where all the actual engineering work gets done. And then you have the sort of coordination layer where your SolidBreeze or your Navis works, where you actually are checking and coordinating all your model. What this means is like there's 3 levels of complexity and then they're distributed across 3 different workflows. So in Endra, that works like everything is sort of made in the same environment. But I think that sort of fuels the complexity of this and maybe a reason also why it hasn't sort of meaningfully changed in a long time. And as well, it's like, as I said, this is a hard thing to build only from a technical standpoint, from an engineering standpoint. We are trying to pass whatever academia has solved in areas like spatial AI and simulation for this type of system. So this is a very hard technical challenge. And I just think it's a big risk for other companies to go do this. This is not something that you build internally. It's way too expensive to do it for yourself. So you sort of need to have the scale that we are having, as well as sort of investors that really believe in your mission and the company to do it and the team to do it. So I think there's a mix of like complexity, funding, I think definitely sort of plays into that. As well as sort of that you have, like, there is a huge technology shift going on now. Like, so, we can use LLMs in various ways. We don't use it like for, let's say, to route a conduit or route a HVAC duct inside a building. That they're really bad at that. We are using it though to structure data, so we can use unstructured BIM data and structure this into a data model and then ingest it into our data model, which is proprietary for Endra and works really well with how Endra works. And so LLMs does play kind of an important role for us in some sense of our workflows. So I think there's a mix of those.
What do you think of the, well, kind of, still doesn't answer why Autodesk didn't come off the mark faster than they have.
Yeah.
Did they believe that their kind of competitive strength was the moat that was going to protect them? Because, with the likes of Endra, you're chipping away at that.
Autodesk, historically, Autodesk hasn't built new software. They've acquired their way to whatever market position they have. So it's. I think I wouldn't expect Autodesk to do it, and I think they may sort of purchase someone to go pursue that if they wanted to. But MEP hasn't been like a huge focus area for Autodesk in general.
So it's kind of like Autodesk is Blockbuster and Endra is Netflix.
Yeah, well, we integrate natively to that Blockbuster in that case. So we don't see them as a competitor at all. We see them more as a partner that we want to integrate to, and sort of our customers use the full Autodesk suite so much. So we're trying to be as native as possible together with the Autodesk suite, and not sort of, we're not building a new Revit. Our users will and may probably spend more time in Endra than in Revit over time, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have a Revit.
That you don't play well with the big boys.
Yeah, exactly. Like we have there's no reason for us to sort of to compete with Autodesk. Like we would just
One of your users is none other than Buro Happold, one of the most major top-tier global engineering consultancies. They pride themselves on being strong on AI. So, it's an honor that you get to work with them. But what I'd be loving to know is, what have you learned from, putting Endra in front of real live, very, very switched on AI MEP engineers?
So there's we work with some of the most sophisticated companies on the globe. Buro Happold, definitely one of them. And so what we
and a host of others, yes.
Yeah, and what we're learning is that engineers are really sort of interested in this technology change. They really want to understand what's going on. Super engaged. Like previously, to scale software inside a large AEC enterprise that's been a challenge. I wouldn't go as far to say that we're not seeing, we don't have this same challenge, but we're sort of, we are the cohorts of the groups of the users that we're engaging with have great majority, or 90% of them has great engagement, and are super excited to do this and really sort of be at the forefront of what's coming next. So
they're the believers in the mission of implementing AI alongside humans.
Definitely, and then they're excited about this, and really see the value of it. So I think that will probably be one of the biggest learnings from the inside. Those people are super excited. No,
but if you answer the question, what have you learned about the product from working with them? They are super excited, and that's great. But how has the adoption and implementation changed the way you think?
So do you mean how we implement the product at them, or do you mean how they are using the product?
No, the way you learn from every engagement. So it's not I wouldn't ask you to talk specifically about how they're using it, but you bring the product to them. They're really smart, sharp, AI switched on believers. Yep. What have you learned that you've taken back that you've actually gone, actually, that's really interesting insight? And then you kind of adopt the product based on that.
Yeah, well, there's so much. I am not in each and every dialogue either that we're having with the customers, but there's overall, we have so tight feedback loops with these guys. So we work incredibly well. One more of a high level, I'm not sure I can give you any specifics, but on more of a high level, we work incredibly tight with all the teams using it. Sit on, in some cases, we are even having a forward deployed motion. So we have our teams sitting at their, we are at their offices as an implement and integrated part of their organization. And then we have incredibly tight feedback loops with all the customers that we're working with, and we're learning as we go from here.
Okay, so basically then, but you might be able to answer this question. So you're working really tightly with them. And I know from working tightly with our clients, especially engineering leaders, that there's a lot of worry about the replacement of junior engineers. Junior engineers are the senior engineers of the future. With some of our clients, they've made a decision they don't want to train junior engineers on AI because they actually want them to be still, doing things the old way because they need to learn on the job. My question to you would be, is it a fear that's well founded that the jobs are going to be gone or they're going to change, or how should firms be thinking about training and progression when AI is doing a lot of the work?
I think that firms that properly adopt this will do incredibly much more. And history have shown itself for many times that that's true. The ones who sort of think that this is not happening, or I think there also is if you're a firm of, let's say, 20 to 30 people, which you may not sort of want to prioritize understanding what this technology shift for MVP engineering organization is about and missing that, I think that's a bad spot.
Very big mistake.
Yeah. Because it will
career suicide, I call it.
Yeah, it will meaningfully change how 70 to 80% of the actual hours being spent on a project being done, and that's just the way it's going to be. I'm very, very sure about that, seeing this from the inside and seeing also how engineering organizations are using this. So what does that mean? Does that mean that jobs are gone? No, definitely not. Firms that, as I said, will adopt this will start offering new products to their owners. Let's say you could start, if you're working with a GC, and you have let's say a 30, your fee is nothing in relation to what they pay for the actual capex for the systems being installed. So let's say your fee is 500,000, but you're designing systems for $30 million. So if you could, let's say you could design 5 different systems, and you can tell the GC that if you design a Siemens system, it'll cost you whatever amount of dollars. If you design an ABB system, it'll cost you whatever amount of dollars. And this is the delta, and this is the difference. And we've actually modeled this down to a very detailed level, so you can see that it works for both. That sort of is, you can start, what my point is that you can start sort of developing new products and offerings to the market that you cannot really do today. And you can charge for that. You can charge for speed to market. You can charge for many other things, and also build moat around your customers in a way that's not really possible. So
I like that answer, Niklas.
Jobs are going nowhere. Engineers will very much still be done. We are building with this sort of, the whole design and structure of Endra is built to have an engineer in control at all times. So
yes. No, I like that answer. Actually, that very much fits in with what we believe at the AI Institute, in that it's actually about, you're doing more work with the same people. You're expanding, as you're talking about, you're expanding what they do. You can actually start thinking about entirely new value propositions, bring on entirely new service offerings that you wouldn't have countenanced before.
Exactly. And there will be parts of the market that will have a really hard time to sort of fit in. The outsourced, I've been very verbal about that.
Which parts of the market would that be, do you think? Who'd be the most susceptible?
I think the outsourced teams in other regions will have a very hard time proving their value, because we're basically moving the value they're getting to the engineers that makes the decision. So I don't think outsourced units will be a big thing, and I think that will go kind of fast. I think that will be in the next year or so that we'll start seeing that firms moving from outsourced models to using technology to do that same type of work.
What I'm kind of envisaging is that a lot of the kind of tasks or the low-hanging fruit that have been outsourced are now being handled by AI. But then isn't there a whole new set of tasks that were being handled on site that are now moving down into that level of, right, we'll outsource these to a different region to handle?
Maybe, but I just think that will sort of be much more of a junior task internally. So I think I'd rather at least invest in a junior talent that can come in, understand my operation, and I can sort of learn this individual over the course of whatever years, and then set this one up for success internally, versus me going to an outsourced agency in Bangalore and asking them to just do this. I think that's sort of, if you compare the value of the two, it's very obvious sort of where you can compound. And I think organizations think in this sort of direction. I would at least sort of, if I would facing that decision, I would definitely go with the first one.
I like that vision. No, I like that vision. So I guess for somebody who's listening from a UK or an Irish-based engineering consultancy, and they're looking to, let's say, the latter half of 2026, what is one practical thing you would suggest they address this week?
I would definitely address like how you as an organization are thinking about this technology shift that's currently happening and where you position yourself in it.
So get an AI strategy if you haven't got one already.
Definitely. That's definitely
we
part
can
of
help
it.
with that at the AI Institute, just saying.
But it's so we help. So at Endra, we help these huge organizations. You can go on our website to see sort of who are the parts of.
It's a who's who of the industry. I can tell you. I had a look in advance.
It's the largest players in the industry, and we're basically trying to help them transform their business into going to AI native ones. I think you as an engineering organization, no matter the size, should meaningfully understand that this, or you should understand that this will meaningfully change how engineering gets done. And Everything. It's basically being sort of led by some of the largest players in this industry. So it's like where you position yourself in that, where you think your position are over time. And if you believe that this will transform how you work gets done. It's kind of a key thing, I think, for
So get a strategy if you haven't got one. This is what I find myself saying on repeat for the last sort of 3 years. Get a strategy or a plan in place if you haven't got one. Don't put your head in the sand. Look to the big guys who are ahead.
And also one thing that shouldn't be underestimated, and I'd really like to stress that it takes time. Like even though we go, let's say we start working with a customer, like the bets that they're making in Endra is not like, let's run a pilot or let's just test a little bit. It's more like now we're transforming our business, meaning that we need that's like a larger shift happening at their company, and so it is. My point is that it takes a lot of time. Like this will take.
And it's a people game, not a pure technology game. I would add.
And it's like it takes a lot of time, and that shouldn't be underestimated. So if you want to sort of be full scale, let's say in a year or so, or 2 years or so, it takes time to get there.
Yeah. And that actually speaks to what we're saying there about the jobs thing. It's like, you were talking to the fact of like people are doing more with the same staff. And what was going on in my mind was, and on top of that, there's all these new AI roles being created. Yeah. So one of those roles that we're seeing more and more often is like the AI project manager or the AI program manager. So it does take time. You do need to hire skilled people who are able to understand, the pushing through the technology as well as the change management, given that humans have to accept this and use it. So there's a lot of things, a lot of variables in the mix.
Yep.
Last question I'd ask you, actually, just for the crack. I know when we were speaking before, you were saying that your father is an architect. So you've built a company that pretty much automates one of the most painful parts of his profession. Is he patting you on the head and saying, Niklas, good job? Or is he saying, what have you done? What does he make of Endra and in relation to the work that he does?
No, he's super excited about the work we do.
Super proud.
He's also retired, so he's not still in the game.
Personally threatened.
Well, he's very excited about what we do. I think he thinks it's a lot of fun that we're doing something very sort of adjacent and relevant to his profession. Yeah.
Well, it's great. Well, you've as a multiple entrepreneur, you've given him many opportunities and reasons to be proud. I wish you all the best with Endra, continued success. Niklas, if people want to follow up with you, where should we send them?
They should either go on my LinkedIn, and they can also find me on X. Those are the two best.
Yes, all the usual spots.
Yeah.
I shall put those links into the show notes. Niklas, thank you so much for taking part. Best of luck with Endra, and see you again. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
All night, we're losing control.